We kick off our simulated offseason by taking care of some business at home.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everyday, or all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we start the simulated off season. So I put on my best Mike Grier hat, and I try to make realistic moves for the Sharks, of kind of knowing what we know about Mike Grier, what he likes in players, and how this team, we do want this team to kind of take a bit of a step this year, right? So the way this is going to be set up, it's going to be kind of over the next 4 days here. Today we're going to be looking at kind of everything before the draft. So, taking care of your own guys, like the re-signings, which players are going to be going to free agency. Look at a couple trades that the Sharks I would make if I was Mike Grier. Kind of nothing super well. There's a good trade in there at least, but we're gonna be kind of looking at that, and then just whatever business we need to take care of on the homestead. So yeah, we'll be doing that today. Tuesday will be the draft. So I will do a full simulated draft, all 7 rounds with the picks that we have, and moving up and down the board, et cetera, et cetera. So will be tomorrow. Wednesday will be free agency, so all the free agents that I sign in this year's class. And then Thursday will be kind of a wrap-up / look ahead to the future and kind of the health of the organization, especially with a focus on the salary cap on Thursday. So let's get started by looking right now just at the Sharks roster currently as it is, before we kind of make any more signings. So we know the Sharks have $41.7 million in cap space. We know they have to spend about $20 million or so just to comfortably get to the cap floor. And spoiler, it was really hard to kind of get to the cap floor. But anyway, so let's look at who's actually under contract for the Sharks right now. You have Laurent Brossoit, who's we know it will not be playing any more hockey. He's got 2 years left on his deal at $8 million. His contract is just going to be on IR. If the Sharks ever get close to the cap and feel like they need to, they can always transition him to LTIR to be able to get a little bit more cap flexibility there. But we know Couture's situation. Tyler Toffoli's got 3 years left at $6 million. Does have a full no trade clause for the next 2 seasons. Alex Wennberg has 1 year left with a 15-team trade list with $5 million. Barclay Goodrow has got 2 years left at $3.64 million. That also 15-team no trade clause for the next 2 seasons. Then Carl Grundstrom, who is your 4th highest paid forward, who is active on the roster at $1.8 million. 1 year left on his deal. Ty Dellinger, 1 year left at $1.3 million. Then you have Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith, both on 2 years left on their ELCs. Both those guys are also waivers exempt. They're not playing at the Barracuda. You have Colin Graff, who has 1 year left on his deal. He is also waivers exempt. I think his days with the Barracuda are long gone. And then you have William Eklund entering the last year of his deal on his ELC. So that leaves guys who are RFAs, Noah Gregor, Klim Kostin, Nikolai Kovalenko, and Thomas Bordeleau. And then defensively, you have Vlasic. Everybody on the defense has 1 year left on their current contracts. You have Vlasic at $7 million, Ferraro at $3.25 million, Liljegren at $3 million, Vinny Desharnais with $2 million, and then Thron and Shakir Mukhamadullin, both 1 year, $1 million. Ruda and Jack Thompson. So Ruda is a UFA, Jack Thompson is an RFA. And then among the goalies, Yaroslav Askarov, 2 years at $2 million, also waivers exempt. Again, I think his days with the Barracuda are probably long gone. Alexander Gorgiev, UFA. Mike Greer's already said thank you for your services. Good luck out there. And then you have Georgy Romanov, who is also a UFA, an RFA as well. And then among the Barracuda, Scott Sabourin. We'll talk about some of the Barracuda guys, but just like we're not going to sign all the Barracuda guys, but just wanted to just throw them out there. So Sabourin, Colin White, Bo, and Pavel Regenda are all UFAs. Alexander Shimolevsky, Martin Kaut, Daniel Gushin, Brandon Coe, Mitchell Russell, Nolan Burke, and Carl Berglund are all RFAs. And then among the defensemen, Jimmy Schultz is a UFA and Gabe Carrier is an RFA as well. So that's kind of where we stand with all the contracts. So I'll just start getting to the signings here. So again, I don't re-sign all the Barracuda guys. Like if they bring back, like Scott Sabourin or something like that, like we kind of know that guy's going to be a Barracuda guy type of player. But guys who will be, either vying for NHL jobs or potentially playing for NHL jobs this offseason that I wanted to make sure to re-sign as RFAs. So Nikolai Kovalenko, he's actually the biggest contract among the RFAs. I signed him to a 1-year deal at $1.25 million. So that one, give him another year, especially because he came over halfway through the season, had some ups and downs, see how he does with one more season under his belt, right? I re-signed Jack Thompson to a 2-year deal at $1.125 million. A little bit more, I know, than the Thron and Shakir Mukhamadullin, but since it is 2 years, it's a little bit more of a bump there. And I think Thompson's going to be in that bouncing back and forth between, and with that contract, you can bury it all in the NHL, all in the AHL if you need to. So, and a guy who's also still waivers exempt for at least this year. The next biggest deal is re-signed Daniel Gushin to a 1-year deal at $925,000. Guy who you're going to tell to come in and compete for a job, right? There's going to be plenty of opportunities. And let him know this is probably your last shot with this franchise this year, and you got to come in, you have to produce, right? Because Gushin, that's how he's going to be an NHL player, is by producing, and you can't just score a bajillion points in the preseason and then not do anything in the regular season, as we have seen, unfortunately, from Daniel Gushin. I did re-sign Jimmy Schultz to a 1-year deal at $800,000, mostly to play the Barracuda, but if you need him on a spot to play in the Sharks, you can do that as well. Georgy Romanov, 1-year deal at $800,000 as well. That's going to be your starting goalie with the Barracuda. And then Pavel Regenda and then Gabe Carrier, but I signed to 1-year deals at $700,000, like vet min deals. Most likely do 2-way deals, so they get paid a little bit more with the Barracuda. But both those guys are going to be playing mostly with the Barracuda. Maybe Regenda gets a shot here and there, but I really did like Regenda's game with the Barracuda. I think he would be a really nice piece to keep around with that team. And if you want just Saber or whatever, they can figure that out. Those type of things. So that leaves who doesn't get signed, which I think is more interesting. So Noah Gregor, RFA, thank you for your services. Klim Kostin, same thing. Thank you for your services. Alexander Shimolevsky, Martin Kaut, we know those guys are never coming back. Thomas Bordeleau becomes a free agent in my off season. So I think it's pretty clear that the organization we know what the organization thinks of Thomas Bordeleau, and if they thought he would be an NHL player, they probably would have played him more NHL games last year. So I think with Bordeleau, who is also a RFA with arbitration rights, I think they're more than happy to, let's just call it what it is. We tried. Good luck. Best of luck to you. So Brandon Coe, Mitchell Russell, Nolan Burke. I think maybe Nolan Burke comes back, as on an AHL type of deal. But and same thing with Carl Berglund. All those guys who are RFAs. I think it's all like Brandon Coe's definitely a guy who I think needs a fresh start somewhere else. And none of the other guys have really, I think, done enough to kind of warrant a new NHL contract from San Jose, especially with all the pieces that are coming into the Barracuda. You high draft picks that are coming into the Barracuda. I think you got to make some space for them, and so those are the players that I have decided to move on from. So we will get to some other moves as Mike Greer, as I put on my GM hat here. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Have you ever looked at your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Buster Posey probably going to need to use Monarch Money now after trading for Rafael Devers. Go check out Locked On Giants. I'm sure they have. I'm sure Ben is over the moon with that. So, but when you're done with Locked On Sharks, or if you haven't, if this is your first time checking out Locked On Sharks, make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Like I said, this week we're doing simulated offseason, all the moves that I would make if I was Mike Greer, or the moves that I think Mike Greer would make, if that makes sense. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. All right. So some trades here, and just a couple-ish. We know Mike Greer. Mike Greer is very active in the trade market. And these are some trades I think that I made two of them bringing in players, and one of them kind of relieving a little bit of the logjam in the blue line to maybe go out and do some more stuff there. So let's start with that aspect of kind of relieving a little bit of the logjam, right? Because we know the Sharks have a lot of guys under contract with San Jose, right? You have 6 players under contract, and then again, I just gave Jack Thompson in my, so 7 players, including Jack Thompson, even though Jack Thompson's going to spend. But I think you got to make some room, right? Because between potentially Sam Dickinson playing in the NHL next year and whatever signings you go out and make this offseason, you can't just bring back the same group of guys and say, I hope the defense gets better, right? You got to bring some people in. And one player who I think has a little bit of trade value, but I wanted to, again, be realistic about it, is Henry Thrun, right? And you think back to when Henry Thrun decided to come, to accept a trade to the Sharks, right? The Sharks, when the Ducks, they had a lot of options for Henry Thrun. He came to San Jose because David Quinn, someone who, is coached and he's been around and stuff. Where is David Quinn now, an assistant head coach at? In New York with the Rangers. I feel very Dora the Explorer here. So the Rangers, we know they're in the midst of a change. They have some cap space. They're trying to figure things out, but having a young, cheap defenseman in Henry Thrun at $1 million, I think would make a ton of sense. And I don't think it'd be very expensive for the Rangers to acquire. So I sent Henry Thrun to the Rangers for a 5th round pick. It reunites Thron with David Quinn. It just frees up the Sharks, the logjam, especially on the left side there. So Henry Thrun to the Rangers for $1 million. I also looked at the goalie market, right? And we know Jake Allen is the guy. And spoiler, I didn't sign Jake Allen because I made this move instead. And right, I think there's gonna be a lot of teams lining up for Jake Allen's services. And why would yes, the Sharks can way overpay Jake Allen, and I tinkered around with that, but I kind of like this move instead because one, I think it's something we've seen Mike Greer do already. So I traded for Laurent Brossoit from the Chicago Blackhawks. The Blackhawks, who have two goalies on their roster already that they definitely want to kind of invest time and resources in, and let these guys who are young, players who've shown flashes of being very good, between Spencer Knight and Arvid Soderblom, who's an RFA, Spencer Knight, who's entering the last year of his contract at $4.5 million, Laurent Brossoit, who's got 1 year at $3.3 million. Of course, didn't play at all last year with a knee injury, and who knows if he could have come back or not. Who knows, but didn't play at all. I sent a 7th round pick for him, right? And we saw Mike Greer make a very similar move for Mackenzie Blackwood, where they traded a 6th round pick for Mackenzie Blackwood. So I sent the Devils' 7th round pick from this year to the Chicago Blackhawks to get Laurent Brossoit from them. And for them, it clears a contract off their books. And yes, I know they have plenty of cap space as well, but it clears up their logjam of goalies, and it gives the Sharks a guy who has been a very good, when healthy, backup goalie, and I think would be a great partner for Askarov. Brossoit would probably get a chance to play more hockey than he's played in a long time, especially compared to last year, and he's on a 1-year deal, so if it doesn't work out, cool, man, it doesn't work out. So those are 2 moves I did there. Smaller moves, but 2 moves. The big quote-unquote trade, I traded for Mason Marchment. And I just think it makes too much sense for San Jose. And again, we know Mason Marchment does have, I think it's a 9-team no trade clause. So we are assuming the Sharks are either, available to trade, or he would waive the trade. Or waive, to be able to be traded to. We know Dallas is looking to shed cap space, and Mason Marchment is probably their most realistic trade piece, of the players that they have, right? And we know Jason Robertson's name is floating out there and stuff, but I find it hard to believe the Stars would be willing to trade a multi-30 goal, scorer, and a guy who's like in his prime right now for a team that, yes, it's going to be a weird year this year, but I still think a team that has aspirations to try to win a cup. So I traded Mason Marchment for the 2025 3rd round pick from the Oilers, who is probably going to be this either the last or second to last pick in that round. Plus, I sweetened the deal a little bit by trading the 4th round Jets pick. So 2 picks for Mason Marchment. I feel like if you look at other other kind of players of this same kind of caliber and contracts, that's a very reasonable trade piece for those. And again, Dallas, who is also trying to shed cap space to re-sign other players and stuff, that's the move I made there. So 3 trades I made before the draft, not including the draft, but getting Mason Marchment in his $4.5 million contract, which is big. You also got Laurent Brossoit in his $3.3 million. You did, lose $1 million in contract space with Henry Thrun, but it opens you up to go out and sign, other defensemen, and I think not have as much competition along the blue line, because the Sharks need to sign other defensemen and add some more talent and some more pieces to the blue line. So those are kind of the moves that I have made right now, but that isn't the end of my offseason, and we take care of some big business here in just 1 second. All right. Before we continue, I do, of course, want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Again, proudly part of the Locked On Network. When you're done checking out this episode, you need to go check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Yes, I know the cup is almost over, but still, they got you covered every game, every night until the Stanley Cup champion is crowned. So go check out that. Go check out Locked On NHL Game Night wherever you listen to podcasts, and of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. All right. There's one more really big piece of business that the Sharks need to take care of this offseason, and that's the William Eklund extension. And no matter what, like that cannot, like they can agree to it and everything like that. It cannot come out until July 1st because whenever you have extensions, they have to be in the last year of their deal. Like the Sharks can't go out and just like sign Celebrini to an extension right now, right? Like they have to be in the last year of their deal. July 1st is the beginning of the new league year. So the William Eklund extension. And this is, we've talked about it before, but I do think it's very important for Mike Grier, who has said, right, we need to start building something. We need to start looking ahead. We need to start being, showing results. And I think, right, I think it's fair to say William Eklund is the first kind of foundational piece in this rebuild. I know he was Doug Wilson's guy and part of a different regime, but he spent most of his time here under Mike Grier, and I think whatever Mike Grier has asked and the Sharks have asked from Equin, he has been a good soldier about it. He has done, spent an entire year in the AHL, and again at the time I was very much like he needs to play NHL games and stuff. William Eklund's a better player for playing a whole season in the AHL that season, right? And we've seen him become, more prolific, playmaker. We've seen him become better along the boards, and right, like he is definitely looks to be a foundational piece, right? First full season, 45 points. Last year, just missed the 60-point mark. I think if he doesn't get a concussion, he's well over a 60-point player and probably vying for the Sharks' lead in points. Like he is a player who you feel like you want to hitch your wagon to. So I am offering William Eklund, or I'm signing William Eklund my offseason. I'm signing William Eklund. And again, the other thing, I hate bridge deals. I get it from the player and I get it from the team perspective, but with a young player like this, who feels like he should be part of your long-term core pieces of your franchise for a team that has a lot of cap space over the next couple of years, right? Just because, yes, the Sharks have $40 million in cap space this year. We just went through, the whole roster and how much caps they have projected and how few players they have signed. Next year, the Sharks have six players under contract, and about $77 million of cap space for the 26-27 season before we do any sort of signings, et cetera, et cetera. But you have plenty of cap space. Don't mess around with this deal. Don't do a bridge deal. I'm not doing a bridge deal. We're signing Equin to 8 years at $8.5 million AAV. And I know that number feels like it's going to be very high, especially if you look at like Wyatt Johnson, who just signed a 5-year deal at 8.4. I think 8.5 is a very fair compensation for Eklund over the next couple seasons, and especially as this cap goes up and especially as his peers continue to also get new contracts. I think 8 years at $8.5 million is a contract that's going to work very well for both, and it's probably going to be a steal for the Sharks in a couple years as other contracts continue to come and go, and you start to see other young players get signed to their new deals. I feel like 8.5 is very. I think that's market value for a guy like William Eklund, who I expect next year to be a 70-point player, right? Basically a 60-point player this year, and I think from here on out, Eklund should be, flirting with a point per game type of performances. And the hope is now we start to see those 20 to 25 goal seasons from him, and 20 to 25 goal seasons and 50 assists, playing top 6 minutes, and a guy who's going to play in all situations for you. Like I think, and yes, I know he's on a center, right? And centers have more value, et cetera, but Eklund has a lot of value to the Sharks. And this deal, right? Like, one, it helps you with your cap space the next couple seasons, getting to that cap for next couple seasons. Two, it sends a message that we're done. Like we're done with this like full teardown mode, and we are ready to build things. And Mike Grier has been very vocal about that. Like, we need to start building and paying one of your young star players. I think 8 years is a long time. He's going to be 23. So this goes to his age 31 contract. You're getting Equin through his entire prime. It just sends a message. We're ready to build. We in San Jose, we know the Sharks. They take. It's been a long part of the Sharks tradition to take care of their guys. You're taking care of one of your young guys who has done everything you've asked of him and more. And you can send that message to the organization. We're not like, yes, they're still gonna, there's still gonna be trades that they make this offseason and stuff, but I think it sends a message that the dark days are over and we're going forward, right? And these are the guys that we have in Eklund and Celebrini and Smith and whoever they draft with the second pick, and like all these other players that they've been gathering and stuff, and now you're starting to kind of see it. Eklund's the first piece of it. I think it makes sense to sign him, and he can, kind of be the first guy to be rewarded because he deserves it, right? He has performed very well in his time in San Jose, and I think it's time to move forward. So take care of Eklund, right? So just a recap. So we re-signed William Eklund, 8 years, $8.5 million contract. So that would, according to my thing, he would be locked up through. It's a long time. It's great. You could, if that happens, you could safely send him to. You could safely order that Eklund jersey. So yeah, that would sign him through. Was at the age? Is that the 2033 season? I guess is where 2033, 2034, somewhere around there is how long he'd be signed for with that contract. So. Fine with me, with that. So, and he'd be one of the few players under contract in the 28-29 season, with him. So, all right. So that's big thing we did, right? We took care of Eklund. We took care of some of the guys that we took care of. Of course, we took care of Nikolai Kovalenko, brought him back for one more season. Jack Thompson got him signed for 2 more years at a very reasonable cost that can be also buried in the minors if we need to. Daniel Gushin, 1-year deal. Like, this is it, buddy. You have Regenda in the AHL. You have Romanov and Carrier and Jimmy Schultz all in the AHL as well. Traded for Mason Marchment for a 3rd-round pick and a 4th-round pick. And then you traded for Laurent Brossoit for a 7th-round pick from Chicago. And then you sent Henry Thrun to the Rangers for a 5th, and you got a 5th-round pick back. So yeah, very active. Nothing crazy. I don't think any of those deals. I mean, the Thron one might be a little bit shocking, but none of these deals I think are out there, and I think there's reasoning behind all of them. So yeah, I feel pretty good at setting the table and kind of where the Sharks would be at with cap space and going into free agency. So, but yeah, first thing first, though, we got to take care of the draft. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. We'll have a full 7-round mock draft where I make all the picks. I move up and down the board, all that fun stuff. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.